Are you thinking about making the move to the Fort Mill, South Carolina area? Well, in this video, we're going to share some of the things that you need to know before you start packing, so stick around. Well, in this video, we're going to unpack the important things to know about Fort Mill, like the location, the schools, the truth about the lower taxes in South Carolina, Fort Mill, and my favorite part, the amenities, the things to do, the places to go that keep people coming back to Fort Mill. So first, as we talk about the location, let's talk about what it is about the location and why it's so important where it is that brings people here. So let's talk location. Located just south of the North Carolina line, the Fort Mill area is a part of the greater Charlotte area, and it's about a 25-minute drive to get to Uptown Charlotte, depending on what part of Fort Mill, obviously, and depending on traffic, but you are within driving distance Uptown Charlotte to the Ballantyne area business hub with easy access to Ballantyne, which is also right on the border of North and South Carolina. And then you also have the location of being just east of the Lake Wylie area and all the things you can imagine you can do on the lake. So location is huge for commuting to Uptown, all the things to do by the lake. And as I mentioned, it is a part of the greater Charlotte area, really, even though it's a part of South Carolina. Oh, hey, quick intermission. If this is your first time watching our channel, make sure you reach out below. I'm Steve Jarrell with the Longleaf Group at eXp Realty, and I love helping people just like you learn about the Charlotte area, find out if it's the right area for you. So make sure to reach out anytime. With all that said, let's jump back in and keep learning all about Fort Mill. Well, the popularity of the Fort Mill area has definitely not gone unnoticed. The population of Fort Mill has grown by 75% since 2018. So that growth is not only impressive, but it's also makes Fort Mill one of the fastest growing cities in the country. And a big reason for that is not just people moving from within the greater Charlotte area to Fort Mill, but transplants, people relocating to the greater Charlotte area, or I should say the Fort Mill area. And that's from schools, from where it's located to get to Uptown, as we just talked about location, the things to do in the area. We're going to talk all about all of those things as we continue on. But just know the popularity of Fort Mill is absolutely one of the fastest growing communities in the country. Well, if you have children, one of the most important things is you're looking at relocation, especially a specific city or neighborhood, the zoning for schools. And a very attractive part of the Fort Mill area are the highly rated schools. According to greatschools.org, these schools, especially the schools within the Fort Mill area, are highly rated, 10 out of 10 in a lot of the different rankings. Some of those schools that are highly ranked include Fort Mill High School, Nation Fort High School, Pleasant Knoll, Gold Hill, Dobbys Bridge Elementary. But especially the Fort Mill High School, as you can see, it is not one that was put together overnight. It's very nicely done with academics, academics and athletics are highly coveted for students, for parents. Catawba Ridge, another school zoned for very high rankings across the board by greatschools.org. So one thing to know when it comes to schools and comes to zoning, that growth in the area can cause pressure for school crowding or rezoning. They're not quite at that point yet, but definitely something to keep in mind as you are looking at different schools. It really comes down to neighborhoods, and you want to make sure you've really looked at where that school is zoned for before committing to a neighborhood. Schools, without a doubt, are one of the very important, very high reasons that people are considering the Fort Mill area. A huge benefit of living in South Carolina, and if you've seen some of my other videos about why people may be moving to South Carolina versus North Carolina that are living in the greater Charlotte area, you will hear many times about the lower taxes. Well, there is more to know about the taxes than just they're lower in general. Let's dive into that so you know the truth of what those taxes are or could be if you decide to live in the Fort Mill area. It's true, Fort Mill does not have an additional city tax like you find in Charlotte, the city limits, which can mean some savings. That said, it's not always as simple as saying Fort Mill is cheaper. In parts of Fort Mill, especially the zip code 29715, where home values tend to run higher, the effective tax rate can actually end up being more than what you pay in nearby Ballantyne, for example. For example, for a $1 million home, Fort Mill property taxes might land in the $8,000 to $9,500 range. Now, this is just an example giving you an idea of the effective tax rates for homes in these areas, so keep that in mind. But while that same home in Ballantyne could be closer to $6,500 or $7,500. Now, I'm giving you a specific example of a specific area in the Fort Mill of what those taxes, even though in other areas it can be cheaper in Fort Mill. So you really have to dive in to know where you're talking about to look to see, are those taxes actually cheaper? It depends on the specific neighborhood, the millage district, and the assessed value. So while Fort Mill can avoid city taxes, buyers should know that higher home values here sometimes offset that advantage. So the truth is, somewhere in the middle of lower taxes or higher taxes in some cases in the Fort Mill area, you just really have to zero in on where within Fort Mill or South Carolina the home is and the home price as well to really come up with a firm number of, am I saving or am I paying more? All right, now that we've talked about the important things like taxes, always fun to talk about, and the location and growth, let's talk about my favorite topic, which is the amenities, the attractions, the real reasons why people are making the move to the Fort Mill area. So what are some of the things that are on people's agenda when they come to visit or make the move to the Fort Mill area? Well, let's dive in. And it starts with from the established communities to vibrant new developments, amazing parks, revitalized downtown that Fort Mill has, that people you'll see strolling down the new Fort Mill, or I should say the renovated, revitalized downtown Fort Mill. And they're all coming for the lifestyle, both for families and for professionals. And Fort Mill has all that in the communities and the developments here in Fort Mill. The first community, the first attraction that people, if you're looking to go somewhere to eat or live, have things to do, let's talk about Baxter Village. So probably one of the most known communities in the Fort Mill area, Baxter Village, it almost feels like its own city within a city, with tree-lined streets, beautiful homes, as well as shopping, all in the Baxter Village community. And at the heart of all of these beautiful homes in the Baxter Village community is the Baxter Village Town Center, which is a vibrant mix of shops, restaurants, and cafes. Whether it's grabbing breakfast at the town tavern, shopping locally, or enjoying live music at the community green, Baxter's designed for connection, walkable living. Homes here are in high demand because it's such a self-contained, friendly community. One of my favorite things about living in the Baxter Village community are the 14 miles of walking trails. So it's an active community, both from amenities, shopping, as well as walking, green areas, pocket parks. Baxter Village is almost an iconic area within the Fort Mill community. Then just a few minutes away from Baxter Village is a newer mixed-use community, Kingsley, which is something you think about of a high-end dining, trendy boutiques, even corporate offices, making it a hub for both residents and professionals. So you have both of these communities, almost self-contained communities within Fort Mill that give it such a unique feel of both being able to do things, shop, amenities, and high-end living, nice homes within both of these mixed-use communities. So what is Kingsley known for? It's known for things like Napa at Kingsley, Carolina Ale House, the Office Craft Bar, which is one of my favorites, and you'll see top retail brands, plus hotels and growing business presence. So it really feels modern. It's a newer feel in the Fort Mill community. So as I mentioned earlier, the expansion of Fort Mill, the popularity has seen a growth of over 75% since 2018. And the big part is the investment by Fort Mill into some of these high-end type of communities, type of developments, mixed-use developments like Kingsley, Baxter Village, like I mentioned earlier, and there continuing to be more that pop up that are driving a lot of the growth in the greater Fort Mill area. And it's not going to stop that type of growth. But as we look at another side of the amenities, or things I should say, that are driving people that want to get outside of their homes and do things, are the greenways and parks that really play a big factor in the outdoor living at its best in the Fort Mill area. One of Fort Mill's biggest draws is the always popular greenway known as the Springs Close Greenway, which is a 2,100-acre nature preserve offering everything from hiking to biking to walking green trails. There's even horseback riding and kayaking. It's truly a gem if you are living in the Fort Mill area or even surrounding areas. People come from all over to get outside and explore the parkway, the greenway at Ann Springs, and they do have season passes to get in, really be able to take advantage of it. And that also helps to keep up the beauty of the park, which as you walk through it, it's a very well-maintained green space that you can come and enjoy with the family. They even have a dog park that you can bring your four-legged friend and explore that. So it is definitely a place, whether you're living in Fort Mill or not, to come and check out. Just make sure to bring some walking shoes and some water, because it's a very expansive adventure as you check out the Greenway. And before I jump over to the next exciting addition or part of the Fort Mill area, I would be remiss if I did not include the attraction of Carowinds as a part of the Fort Mill area. And I can tell you that myself, our family, will get season passes to Carowinds, and we'll go on a Sunday. If you're not familiar with it, it's a huge theme park that has everything from roller coasters to a water park to kid-themed Snoopy and different rides that are really cool for kids of all ages up to adults riding roller coasters. That if you're not fond of roller coasters, there's a lot of other things to do, but just know Carowinds is within minutes of the Fort Mill area. A great cheat code is to get that season pass. Go there as many times on those Sunday afternoons when you need something to do with the family. If you're living local, it's awesome, but definitely a big bonus if you are living in the local area to pop over to Carowinds. And as if there aren't enough fun things to do in the Fort Mill area or attractive parts of the Fort Mill community, I mentioned earlier, and I'll highlight it again, and that is the downtown Fort Mill. Super cool, revitalized, still have some of the existing facades and bricks from years past that have been updated, and just has a cool vibe. There's still a number of really good shopping. There's craft breweries, boutique shops and restaurants, even community events that take place in the downtown that really bring the community together. So similar to other downtown walkable areas, it's a great place to hop from shop to shop, grab lunch, grab dinner, enjoy your time there. But the downtown is definitely a factor for why it's still such a popular area for people to consider Fort Mill as their home. So a big question to ask as you're exploring Fort Mill and seeing, is this the right place for me? Is it for my family, for myself long term? Is this the right place? Definitely check into, what does it feel like to explore the neighborhoods? Do the taxes make sense? Even though you hear that South Carolina has lower taxes than greater Charlotte area communities, there are some things to look at, especially as I mentioned earlier, in the different zip codes or communities within Fort Mill that can actually be a little bit higher. So exploring those and seeing, does this make sense for me? There's some great places to check out, both if you're a homebody or you like to get out. Fort Mill has a ton going on. I'm Steve Jarrell with the Longleaf Group here at eXp Realty. If you have any questions, we love helping people just like you every single day make the move, figure out if it's the right move for you. Make sure to reach out anytime. With all that said, until next time, we'll see you then.